This is the Geeks of the Week. Enjoy.
Okay, we're actually doing this. This is amazing. I'm super excited. What's up, guys?
I'm so excited too.
This is Straw Hat Goofy along with Jay Stoobs. This is Geeks of the Week, the podcast where geeks have a shoulder to rant on. We're super excited to finally be here together. We're just two kids who came from TikTok with the love of movies, geek culture, nerd culture, and anything in between. Jay Stoobs, what do you got to say? Are you excited?
I am so excited. I've been waiting my whole life for people to want to hear more of my opinions on stuff that doesn't matter at all. So this is pretty great for me because I have a lot of opinions and none of them are particularly important, but they're fun.
I think that's what podcasts are, right? It's just people throwing out opinions that don't really matter in the grand scheme of the world.
Exactly. Yeah, there's educational podcasts, but I mean, I don't usually listen to those.
No. I honestly feel like we're like those kids who they grew up in Silicon Valley. They don't go to these. They grow up in Silicon Valley, don't really do anything, and say, I could totally start a podcast. Like I think, I think that's us right now. Just like
that is definitely us.
Yeah. So, and I mean, as long as we can have like just a little bit of fun, just talking about some Marvel, some DC, some meaning of life. Some books, some fantasy, some movies,
all kinds of crazy stuff.
That's what I live for. Have you ever like really like just bug your friends about this type of shit? Like I feel like when I'm at work, like I work in like a very like, I don't want to say it's like the most professional advertising environment, but it's not professional. It's professional enough to where like the minute I bring up like the latest like Marvel TV show, I get like eye rolls. It's like here's this fucking guy go again. Like,
oh yeah.
WandaVision.
I'm every workplace that I've been, working from home for a while, especially since the pandemic, but my entire life I've been the person at the workplace that like people would come into the conversation at a very strange time and think that I'm talking about something very serious. But no, I'm talking about like some specific plot points from some that I watched. And they're like, when did this happen? I was like, no, it's not real. It's a movie, but I'm just very passionate about it. That's why.
You know what? Like work, like back when I used to work at Disneyland, that used to be like a regular thing. People used to like walk into the break room, and I'm just like, you would have thought I was talking about like a Black Lives Matter protest the way I was like screaming. I'm literally just like at the top of my lungs saying, "No, he shouldn't have did that. It doesn't make sense. It's a travesty that they would even think they should do that, and I think somebody should be locked up for it." What are we talking about? Oh, we're just talking about Thor: The Dark World, and like. Like how Malekith just didn't use the reality stone correctly. He just wanted to make the world dark, but he can alter reality. It's whatever. Like you're like, oh, all right, I'm gonna leave. I'm out.
Okay, so fun talk. I'm gonna go. It's bad when your coworkers are like, well, I'm gonna get back to work.
That's the sentence of death. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna get back to work, or even like this is worse. Like my best friend brought this up to me. We literally laughed about this for like 30 minutes. He said like the worst thing ever is when you are introducing like a new show, a new movie, or a new anything to like a significant other, and like the whole time you're just kind of like looking at them, right? Like, hey, are you interested? Are you interested? And then like they have to either go to the restroom or they have to take a call, and then you pause it, but then they look at you and say, no, it's okay, just keep going.
That is I've literally ended relationships.
It's the worst because it's like, so you don't care. It's confirmation.
Exactly. What? Pay attention. I can't stand it when people ask me at the beginning. My husband is notorious for this. He's into a lot of the same things that I am, but sometimes we'll be watching something and I'll be like, okay, so who is this person? And can you explain this to me? I'm like, no, you watch and then you learn. That's how this works.
Oh no, it's like do you want me to just turn it off and just explain it to you? Like
exactly.
Just get a candle.
Just have like gone to Wikipedia.
We can do this like Are You Afraid of the Dark style. Just get like a campfire, just a candle, turn off all the lights, and say, once upon a time,
exactly,
Godzilla versus Kong. This everything you need to know about this movie instead of just sitting down and watching it.
Exactly. Yeah. No. It's a problem.
And at a point, it just becomes like less productive, right? It just becomes like me sitting here explaining to you, and like you're putting much more work on me because now I have to remember everything and tell it in the right order and make sure you remember.
Yes,
I'm not a teacher. Like
exactly.
I'm not never wanted to be. I just want you to watch this movie and just
No,
take.
and I've said this on my TikTok several times. Like people people make the joke. They're like, "Oh, you must be fun to watch movies with." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not." You don't want to watch, if you don't want to watch a movie, then you do not want to watch a movie with me, especially. Like
That's
I
facts. That's
there are
facts.
people that just want to watch things and be casual about it. And sometimes if it's like the third or fourth viewing of
Mm-mm.
something, I'm like, maybe, but for the most part, I'm just generally not the casual movie viewer. I'm invested.
People don't understand like how intense we movie viewers like are when we're watching a movie. Like people just think like we're just kind of like watching it for like the colors and just the basic like, oh yeah, I'm just here for the action. Like no, I'm looking at why that cup has like 3 pieces of condensation like coming down of it. What does that mean?
Yes.
What is the deep thematic meaning of the condensation? And like when I'm watching like it's like especially worse for me. Like I get worse watching Easter eggs in Pixar movies than I do watching like Marvel movies because like I'm literally like, okay, what's the next movie? They haven't even announced the movie, but I'm looking for a clue to the next movie. It's just, oh, there's a dinosaur writing down dinosaur. It's just I get like so like into it. And like I remember after Soul came out, and I was in the middle of doing that series where like I break down the different like Easter eggs and like Pixar movies. And I was like literally like I was on my phone just like going back and forth. I look like a crazy person. It's just me just on my phone, just like back and forth, pause, rewind, slow down. And she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm trying to find the next Pixar movie." She says, "Why don't you YouTube it?" I looked at her and went, That's fake shit. How dare you say that? That's fake shit. I'm real."
Very committed to the craft.
Exactly. It's the fight. This is our Da Vinci Code. Okay.
Exactly.
You know,
Sometimes I just want a little mystery to solve. I just want to use my brain. I mean, literally, like I'm also a big reader, so like I
mm-hmm.
try to explain to people, like, do you like it when you're reading a book and people come up to you and they're like, "Oh, what's your book about?" Like,
I'm trying to
I'm
figure that out.
yeah, I'm currently discovering that, Susan. It's the same way for movies. I'm like, well, I mean, especially if it's something that I'm watching with someone for the first time. I know it's a stereotype that there's always the one person that's like, who is that guy again? Or what are they doing? And I'm just like, if you'd been paying attention, then you wouldn't be asking me this question right now.
How dare you ask me while I'm trying to figure out the meaning of life in this meaningless movie? Trying to figure out the meaning of life in this movie about a kid who gets turned into a mouse by witches in this very expensive hotel. I'm trying to discover something about myself, and here you are asking, who's the witch there? What does she do?
I mean, Roald Dahl, he was onto some real shit though. I mean, it was very. It's not light. It's not for the faint of heart.
Oh, not at all. Like I feel like I don't read Roald Dahl, but just like any movie that gets adapted, like one, I think like this guy's really high when he comes up with these like these things. He's like really, really high. And two, like oh, probably. And then two, why like how does he come up with these concepts? It's like, oh yeah, it's a big friendly giant who's like not the tallest giant. The other giants could eat him. And then, oh yeah, it's a guy with a chocolate factory with an opium addiction. Wait, what? Huh? So is Roald Dahl like, does he do drugs? Like he's like I kind of like feel like him and the guy who made Alice in Wonderland, C.S. Lewis, is that him?
Yeah.
C.S. Lewis? Were they like best friends? Because I do feel like they just got into a room and hotboxed the shit out of it. He made every single piece of art they ever did.
They really cornered the market on that genre. I'm not sure if they actually partake, but yeah, they really catered to a certain demographic.
Absolutely. And like I said, I've never read it, but watching these movies, like when you just kind of like look at it in a vacuum, you're just like, oh wow, like a 5-year-old falls down a rabbit hole and the first thing she sees is a fucking hookah smoking caterpillar.
Oh, yeah.
Is like, what is that? What does that mean? Are you okay, bro?
Yeah. Dude, the books too are just wild. The dialogue, everything is like, it's very introspective. Like Alice is like, oh no, I'm me. And how do I define me? Like what is existence? Like, I'm like, this is a children's book.
That's exactly what a 5 to 10-year-old would ask themselves.
Yeah.
This is what they are thinking.
Exactly. Yeah, it's probably scarier to read as an adult than it is as a child.
Oh my gosh. Like when you like see things is like that. And that's what I think, like when you make things for children, it's almost like you have free reign to pretty much do whatever you want and say whatever you want. Just like as long as you like make it to the point where children are like, oh my God, colors and caterpillars, like it's fine. But then like as you grow older, adults start to go like, there's something seriously wrong with this fucker. Like there's something like there's something going on here. Like I do believe that the people who made like things like Shrek are like just like laughing their ass off at the people who are like that's at the young crowd watching their shit now, because they're just like it's like almost like lighting a match and then like waiting for the fuse to go off, and they're just like, and we got them. Traumatized or or their parents just realized.
Yeah, I mean that's the great thing. That's one of the I studied animation. Like animation is one of my favorite types, like genres for film, and I think that animation always really, but especially recently, like with the introduction of films like Shrek, the ability to like cater to multiple demographics within the same film to like add layers. And you know, Disney was doing it for a while, but I feel like then when you got like DreamWorks kind of branched out with films like Shrek, they really were like, oh no, like literally this is a joke explicitly for you grown-ups. Like it's not it's like, and it's that's what's been so great about the way that media has like evolved, is that it's just it's enjoyable for everyone, which is so awesome. I love it so much.
It's funny too, because like I can watch a like a Disney film, like a Disney Renaissance film, or just like Disney films just like way back then, and they were like almost strictly for children, but there was still like a craft there that like adults can also enjoy, because like I like there's a couple of like adult themed jokes in like Beauty and the Beast. Like one of my favorites being like when Cogsworth is talking to Beast, and Beast is like, oh, like what do I do for her? What do I get her? He says like, oh, there's a many number of things you can do. You can get her flowers, you can cook for her, like promises you don't intend to keep. Like it's like little, but it's like very subtle, and it goes by really quick. Where you like you can like you know, your parent who's watching what you can give you a little chuckle. But I don't think it was like until maybe I want to say, I mean, I'd argue it was the Iron Giant, because Iron Giant is like way more adult oriented than most films during that time. But I argue it wasn't until like maybe like Toy Story came out, and there's so many, the writing, the screenplay is just, the writing in that screenplay is just so on point. And like I remember rewatching it. I rewatch it a lot, so like saying I remember rewatching it. Yeah, when I say I remember, I mean like I was probably watching it yesterday. But like I remember watching it, and literally like from the first like couple lines, like just like every first line that every character has is like so great. Like Mr. Potato Head's like first line, I think, is his first line is like, oh, like I told you, my box says 3 and up. I am not made to be babysitting Princess Drool. But then his next line is like he rearranges his face and says, I'm Picasso. And then you have Ham, who's like, oh, I don't get it. He's like, you uncultured swine. What are you looking at, you hockey puck? And there's literally a hockey puck like, what the fuck, man?
I mean, Toy Story was so brilliant. And what I love about Toy Story is that it started, I mean, Pixar just started off on the exact right foot. And I've watched like all the behind the scenes stuff. Pixar was like the shining guiding light in my life for a long time, as I obviously was an animation major. And like in the original drafts for that script, like it was way more adult. Like Woody was so unlikable because he was an
asshole. I tell people this all the time. He was an asshole.
Yes. But I mean, I think that that's a great place to start. I think that they approached it, you know, trying to write a movie that they wanted to watch, because they appreciated the art of animation. And it wasn't like I had this friend from school that would always, he was a fellow animation nut. And he would always tell people, they'd be like, oh, well, that's just a kid's movie. He's like, it's not a kid's movie. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Just because it's a family movie, that means it's acceptable for all ages. It's not a kid's movie.
There's a mom, there's a dad in a family, there's a grandpa. It's for all ages, okay? That's what family means.
Yes, he was right though. But I do think that like we got like little glimmers of this, like Genie in Aladdin, I think is the first instance.
Oh yes.
And Disney clearly like didn't do it intentionally, because God rest his soul, Robin Williams, that magnificent human being, just created that character, and all of his like impressions and stuff that kids don't get. Even I still don't get them, because I'm too old to get the reference.
You're always like, finding something in that performance, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I love that we had little glimmers of it before, but I think you're right. I think like Pixar and like the mid '90s really is, I think, when mid '90s, early 2000s is when they really started approaching the genre differently. And
Hmm.
it's I'm so glad that they did.
Yeah, it was funny. I was listening to this podcast called I think it's called like We Rank Movies or something like that, and or like ranking every movie, I think is what it's called. And they were talking about Bugs Life, and like anytime somebody's talking about Bugs Life, I'm like, oh fuck yeah, it's getting the love it deserves. Finally, like no one talks about Bugs Life, and I
So
feel like
underappreciated.
it's so underappreciated. It's so good, but I feel like the reason why people don't latch onto it like they do like other Pixar things is because like obviously Toy Story is the first one, and as great as it is, like it's still like damn near a perfect film if you ask me. But like Bugs Life, I would put Bugs Life on the same level as the first Toy Story, but I feel like the reason for that is because like Pixar didn't like necessarily like find their niche yet. Like they were definitely like killing the animation game because they're the first like 3D animated feature ever. But a lot of that was built off of like, the writing with Joss Whedon and like John Lasseter and like those guys. And like so that was like something that supplemented the great animation, whereas like Bugs Life also had great animation for the time. I'm not saying like it's great now, but for the time, great animation. And the writing is cool, the writing is like it's there, but it feels more like a kids film. Whereas when you like compare it to the movie that came out that same year, Ants, that one felt like a Woody Allen adult-oriented version of what Bugs Life was. Boiling it, and they made the point of boiling it down. You can make them sound like the same film, but they are two distinctly different films.
Oh yeah.
And that's because Bugs Life is more like a story that children can more like latch onto of like, oh yeah, like you can be anything you want to be. You can break away from the mold. Whereas like Ants is more about like, oh yeah, like this guy is having like not only an identity crisis, but he's literally like fighting back against like this system that's secretly oppressive in a way. And like there's themes of war, and there's themes of like being a mindless drone, and there's just so much more going on to it, which is why I don't blame people when they choose Ants over Bugs Life.
Yeah.
I think people still need to see the perfection that Bugs Life is. But again, I think like that's a perfect example of like where the paradigm shift of like animation and like how you can tell a story using animation.
Yeah, I think A Bug's Life was a bit of an overcorrection from Toy Story, like because it was like they did. I think they appreciated the success, and Pixar is as amazing as they are. I say a lot that they are similar to the MCU because they're both just very formulaic. They found a magic formula that works. Like I don't knock them for using it because it works like a charm. But
I cry every time.
Absolutely, yeah. But I think that A Bug's Life was very much like them like settling into that formula, and maybe it's their second foray. They had such success with the first one. I don't blame them for maybe being a little bit more safe with their second movie than they needed to be. But I still think it's so much fun, and I do wish I got no love for even the first Cars. It's not my favorite.
It's aggressively okay is what I keep calling it. It's aggressively okay.
If they had done a sequel to A Bug's Life instead of Cars,
I've been waiting for that for years.
That would have been so amazing.
You know what pisses me off is like, like in the bloopers of Toy Story 2, they have like the Bug's Life 2 joke.
Yes.
Where Heimlich and Flick show up. And like that got me excited. It got me so excited. I was like, oh my God, it's happening. And it never happened. God. And the thing that like really pissed me off is they also teased Toy Story 3 in that same blooper reel. And we eventually, fun fact, they actually got rid of that Toy Story 3 tease because it was very like Harvey Weinstein-y because he's like trying to persuade the Barbies and everything. Yeah. But the fact is, I remember it, and I've literally held on to that scene for I believe 11 years. I held on to it thinking like, oh, Bug's Life and Toy Story 3 are happening, and then Toy Story 3 happened, and when it did, I was like, where's my Bug's Life 2? Where is it? I need it. Like one came true, why not the other one? But I honestly think now, like, if they did do Bug's Life 2, how would they do that, right? Like, what would you do
at this point? I'm not sure that I might like kids like bugs. I think that it would be pretty easy to sell it as a concept, but I don't know that the story really needed further elaborating on, if I'm being honest.
I think it not yeah,
The
I
Cars
think
franchise also didn't need elaborating on, but you know.
toys, Cars
Exactly.
Land, merchandise. Like I found out when I was working at Disney, I was just kind of like looking up like what's the biggest like movie merchandising thing. Obviously, I think Star Wars was like number one, but right
Yeah.
behind it, and it wasn't even far either, was Cars. And I'm just like thinking to
That's
myself, like,
insane.
that's crazy. Like it's so and I think only by that point they only had Cars 1 and 2. And along with like a bunch of shorts. So it was just kind of like, it is, and it's so funny because like the reason why I like Cars is cool. Like I can like appreciate it for being like Pixar's like first true character study. I think it's it's a nice character study on like Lightning McQueen, and like it has a nice arc for him of him going from like this unlikable asshole to like actually being like a decent, not human being, I guess like a decent automobile. Uh but my main like issue with the movie, and I'm like, I hate comparing it to like Pixar's other things, but let's be real, they set a standard. They set a
Yeah.
standard for not only animation but just like storytelling in general. And so I feel like Cars doesn't necessarily live up to that standard because like we said, like Pixar at that point has already like kind of created a formula where not only do these films like entertain you, but they make you like question things about like life and make you like look back at your own life with these characters. Like they did it with Monsters Inc. They for sure knocked it out the park with Finding Nemo, and then
Yeah.
Incredibles came out, and then these are like themes like family and just like loss and isolation and like all these different things. And then you just have like this arrogant son of a bitch who needs to learn to appreciate the journey, which I'm like, okay, that's a theme, sure, but it's not on the
I
same
mean,
level as like
if your entire like story can be summed up by the song "Life Is a Highway," like I think we could go deeper, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what, like I don't feel bad for any of those characters in in Cars, because like look, at the end of the day they could have just moved out of Radiator Springs.
Yeah,
They could have moved. You honestly could have went anywhere else and opened up a tire shop. You could have done anything. Like people move out of towns,
exactly.
and then like Lightning McQueen himself, he's if he never would have learned his lesson, he still would have been fine. Like he might have went on to win the Piston Cup. He just would have been an asshole afterwards. And
Yeah,
so it's
yeah.
just at the
It's
end
not
of the
like he changed his life, you know. It's not like he was like, like there's more to life than racing. I'm done with it. He was
he
like,
literally
no.
just moved to another area, just like, oh, I'm gonna live
Yeah.
here now. And you know what, like the other thing that like bugs me about just all those movies in general, like is like I don't buy the friendship between Mater and Lightning. It I just don't buy it. Like
Yeah.
he seems like he tolerates Mater more than anything.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't seem like a friendship. The movie tells us it's a best friendship, but even in Cars
I
2,
mean,
you would think they're besties. No, he's just like, oh hey Mater.
Mater acts like a dog, you know, like he's not, they're very clear to like make all of the cars have like, you know, they're anthropomorphizing the
Mm-hmm.
cars. I don't even know if you can use that word about non-organic beings, but yeah, I don't know what the
Yeah.
other word would be. But yeah, so
Automomorphizing? I don't know.
yeah, they're making them very human like, but Mater is just like dense to the point of like, what is your intelligence level
It
truly?
really
Like
makes me question them, yeah.
are you like are trucks like, because then in the subsequent series they have like tractors that are like animals
It's
that
so many
aren't
questions.
sentient.
The
Like I'm
universe
like,
has so many questions.
what is going
And I hate it when
on?
people say things like, oh, like you shouldn't like think too much into it. I have to. Like
How can you not?
every movie has a set of rules. Toy Story has rules. When the people come in, the toys pretend that they can't move. Simple.
Yes.
They don't let themselves be seen moving. It's very simple, okay?
Yes.
But then Cars, like in one of the Cars movies, like there's an adult scene where these two twin cars flash like Lightning McQueen with their
Oh
headlights. They
yeah.
flash them. So I'm like, okay, so I guess that's their boobs, okay. But then in the very next movie, there's another car whose headlights is his eyes. So like if we're like looking at like the anatomically, I don't know what the word is, but if you put that to a person, essentially their eyes will be at their nipples. So it's like, what are you trying to say? Why are
And they
there
have
doors
like
and there's no human?
tongues. Like
Tongues? What do you need
what?
tongues for?
Why
What do you
does
need
the
tongues
car need a
for?
tongue? I don't understand.
Like you don't need a tongue. Like, why do you have doors if there's no people driving you? And people say, oh, it's a Pixar theory. I'm like, it's not proven. Okay,
yeah.
it's so many questions.
I still have I'm just genuinely curious as to why sentient cars could possibly exist. Like they're completely things that are created for human existence, and
exactly.
they're just living in this world that's like not made for them. Yeah, I
And you know,
I know people are gonna say it's not that deep, but
it's deep. It's deep. I don't care what anybody says.
I know.
Because listen to this. Like, if it's all part of the Pixar theory and it's because the cars came to life, okay, maybe I can buy that. The cars just came to life and grew eyes in the windshield and shit. They just grew eyes and have tongues. You know, like the Pixar theory just like, oh yeah, let's give them like actual body parts. But why the fuck are there bugs that are that are cars? How does that work?
Yes.
Like, how does a Pixar theory like,
and how do they reproduce?
How do they
like
look? You're speaking my language because I've thought about this for a long time. I was like that. I was literally at Disneyland, like the crazy person working at Cars Land, asking people these things. I was like, how are they bored? How are they bored? Oh, like think about it. Is it like an assembly line that creates the cars that they call God or Mother? Is it or like do they like, and how do they grow? Like, what does a baby car look like?
I mean, yeah, like what is the line between organic and automotive in this universe? Because it's blurred. It's blurred.
It's so blurred. It's so blurred. And it like I'm not even kidding you, Megan. Like, this is like woken me up at night. Like these are things that like legit woke me up at night. Just like how like there needs to be rules. Like at least like if there was like just one scene where like somebody said something like, oh yeah, like I came right off the assembly line, or like, oh yeah, I'm praying to Nissan or something. I'm praying to Ford. Something. Just give me a little something. Instead, they just said like, oh yeah, these cars are alive because John Lasseter liked cars.
Oh, John Lasseter and his car obsession.
Gosh.
The man's done some good work, but let the cars go, man. I mean, I guess they really made a lot of money off of it, but still.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it worked. It paid off for them like a lot. But I guess like it's like probably the only man on the planet that doesn't give a damn about cars in general.
Yeah.
I just do not care about cars. I cannot even tell you if a car drove in front of me right now, if it's not a Nissan Rogue, which is what I drive, I couldn't tell you what was the make, the model. I could barely even tell you the color. I'm just like, oh, they're all cars. And that just translated to the movie, just like, oh, they just cars with eyes and tongues and bugs do that. Fuck it.
I mean, the real thing about cars that bothers me, and I know that again, people are probably going to say, oh, it's for kids, but Pixar was like a trailblazer in the animation world, and they were artists first before anything else. That is how they like built their entire brand. Was like, they're a bunch of kids from Cal Arts that were like, no, we're not gonna adhere to Disney's rules. We're gonna make our own company and we're gonna make true art. And I can respect that. And I don't think that you shouldn't get paid as an artist. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think that Cars was very much like oh, but you know what we could do? That would just make us a lot of money and appeal just like primarily to children, and it doesn't have to be deeper than that. And I'm like, okay, sure, but like, you could have been the chosen one.
People like here. I'm the first one to like praise the hell out of Pixar. Like I literally own every Pixar movie except for Soul because it's on Disney Plus, but I should buy it. And Cars 2, because why the fuck would I have Cars 2 in my collection? Like I have 1 and 3, but like why the fuck would I? I'm literally waiting for Pixar to go out of business to go out and get Cars 2. That is like that is what I'm doing. But I'm literally the first one to tell people like, oh yeah, man, Pixar was a dynasty from like 95 all the way to I say until like 2010, because 2011 Brave is it shouldn't have beat Wreck-It Ralph. Yeah, I feel, and people will come after me for this, and that's a whole nother episode because I can go on for that. But then like I think after that was Cars 2. It was this is what happened. It was Toy Story 3, which was amazing. Then Cars 2 happened, which was shit. And then Brave came back, and then I was and then I think like after Brave, it was Monsters University, and that just didn't do it for me. Like it was just, again, it was almost as aggressively okay as the first Cars, which,
Well,
like I
and
said, it's fine, but
you could tell that something was going on. Like Jennifer Lee was the director of Brave halfway through until they
yes,
removed her from the
yes.
project.
Mm-hmm.
And who's to say whether, Jennifer Lee's version would have been better, but
Bring back the
I
Jennifer Lee cut.
she's gonna yeah, exactly. Hashtag.
Hashtag Jennifer Lee cut.
But, I mean, no one's asking for this, but we're gonna start a movement.
This is a movie no one will care about because there's plenty of people who love Brave, but like,
yeah.
I will stand on this hill with you and like bring back the Jennifer Lee cut of Brave.
I just think I mean the movie's okay, but I do
Yeah.
I think that I'm not the biggest fan of Frozen, but I love Frozen too, and I think that Jennifer
Mhm.
Lee had a lot of potential as a great animation director, and
Mhm.
it always rubs me the wrong way how that project went.
No, I this was during a time. This is like when I first got into like the production of movies. So I would like literally like I knew about Iron Man when it first went into production, like back in like I want to say like 2005 or something like that. Like I would always be like, oh
That
yeah,
sounds right.
here's a greenlit movie. So I was already up on that. So I was up on Brave like years beforehand. So I would like follow like the process of what was happening. And then I remember they said that she exited, and I believe like I can't remember who they replaced, but I believe they like it was like a co-director situation.
Yeah.
And then like when I went to see the movie, I can totally tell where everything just kind of switched. Like the opening is of Brave is amazing.
Yeah.
The animation, like the way they set up Merida's character, the music.
Mhm.
I was like, and mind you, I invited friends as well. So like I had so I had like my movie clout like between my friends like at stake. And so I'm thinking like, yes, it's another Pixar banger. And then her mom turned into a bear. And
Yeah.
I was like, this is I literally pulled out my phone and I looked up the original synopsis, which was like, oh yeah, Merida is a freewheeling like princess who like unleashes a curse upon the kingdom. I'm like, where's the curse on the kingdom? Like there's this is just mother bear, it's brother bear, but with a mother. Like it's just what's
And
going on?
as somebody who, both a girl who grew up watching Disney princess movies and then went to school for animation and fell in love with Pixar, I was so hyped when Brave was announced, and I was like, they're finally having a female protagonist,
Yes.
which is something that Pixar can be criticized for, is their lack of diversity and representation up until, I mean, recently they're getting better, but I was very excited. I was like excited that it was going to be a princess movie because I was like, I think this will be like a princess movie that like will be different, and Disney's doing that now with projects like Raya and Moana and that kind of thing. But I was like, yeah, this could be so cool. And then I was just like, I mean, it's not a terrible film. I still think there's things to enjoy about it. But yeah, I'm still a little bitter.
So am I. Like this was like the thing that makes me upset is like this was Pixar's chance, like really like be the first to do that. Because up until then, like I argue, like Disney already did that with like Princess and the Frog and like Tangled and everything. But this was like, but again, those were still in the same like vein as like the previous princess movies like Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and all those things. They're more independent than those characters, but still they were like on Mulan's level, if you ask me.
Mulan's usually my gauge.
They were like on Mulan's level. They were not exactly Mulan, but that's a good gauge. It's like the Mulan, or is it Snow White? Mulan or Snow White.
Poor Snow White.
Or Ariel. It's like either Snow White or Ariel, who's like at the bottom of the gauge. If you ask me.
Oh, and I loved when I was like 2, I was obsessed with Ariel, and so she was like my favorite for a while because I knew that growing up. And then when I got older, I was like, this is not someone I should have been emulating.
Started to agree with Trident, especially when I became a dad. I was like, when I became a dad, I was
16?
Like, oh my God, 16, girl, you literally.
She thinks she can run away.
She forsook her whole race for a guy she saw one time, didn't even hear his voice. She saw him play a flute with a dog, and she was hooked. And she
gave away her voice. She gave away her autonomy.
Voice. Like literally, those humans are eating your friends as we speak. Literally, they try to eat your friends in the movie, and you're still trying to be one of them.
Self-respect,
Come on. The first dinner they try to feed you was fish, and here you are, like, oh my God, he's hot though. So
trying to make her into a cannibal, and she's like,
okay, like, come on, let's do it. Like, you're hot, blue eyes, like.
So that actually, you started this rant off with you mentioned like I'm mumbling here. This happens. You talked about your movie clout with your friends, and I just was wondering, like, so how did was this something that like you did like your whole life? Were you always into movies? When did it like develop into an obsession for you?
You know what? Like I always was I had trouble just kind of like relating to people when I was growing up. Like and I was like very much bullied in elementary school and middle school.
I've never had that problem. I've
Oh
always
yeah.
been very popular.
Some
Just
people
kidding. No,
understand.
very, very relatable.
Very
Hard relate.
like I'm talking like super bullied, like really bullied. So I didn't like I had friends. Like I wasn't like a loner or anything like that. I didn't become an incel, thank God. But it was just like the only thing I really could relate to was like characters in movies because they had like these ideal lives and there was like kids who got bullied were always like won and I never won. So it was a big reason why I started playing basketball in middle school so I can like make friends. But even then, like I couldn't make a lot of friends. So, but I did know that like I can watch a movie obsessively, like I'm talking like once, and then like that once will become like 8 times, and then I can like recite movies like the back like easily.
Yeah.
And so, and then it became like I can just watch a movie once, and then just because I'm always like hyper focused on it. And so like even then I didn't realize like I was like I was in love with them. It was just something like, oh yeah, like this is how I start conversations with people. It's the only thing I know how to start a conversation with, right? So then like it wasn't until high school, actually, shit, it wasn't really until high school to where like my first oh yeah, I might be into this type of thing was when I like became like a low-key theater kid.
Oh,
um
nice.
me and my theater teacher, shout out to Mr. Miller, Phil, uh he and I became like really, really good friends, like which is kind of weird. Like he was an adult. I was like, I saw us as friends. Like it's as professional as you can get. And like he just kind of like he would talk to me about movies. He was like the only one that really engaged with me about movies. He would introduce me to plays. And I actually ended up doing a couple of plays my senior year that I really, really enjoyed. And I really was like in love with like, you know, the playwriting process and just like the storytelling and like exploring characters. And I was like, oh wait, I've always kind of done that. And it was like thanks to him that he kind of like unlocked that in me, because at that time I was still playing basketball, like in an effort to like still make friends. But then at that point I gotten really good, so it was just now just kind of like, this is how I'm gonna make it out the hood, because you know, being from Compton, it's like basketball's the way out. So like I was playing basketball, and then I also had the lead role in 12 Angry Men, which I watched the movie before. So I was like obsessed with this
That's
with this whole
incredible.
thing. It's one of my flexes that not many people know about.
That's so
My
cool.
wife and my best friends only know about it, and whoever saw the show.
That must have
But
been such a fun role to play too. That script is so awesome.
I'm surprised that I was actually able to do it on multiple weekends. It was like I was like, oh wow, like this is a lot of fun. So it was that. But here's when I knew this is when I knew. People call me Troy Bolton my last year of high school because you know Troy Bolton, I assume. Like I never took you as a High School
So
Musical fan.
I'm a little bit too old for the High School Musical thing, but I've been on TikTok long enough that
Okay.
I know the thirst. I'm
I
familiar.
am part of the High School Musical thirst. Like I grew up on that. And so like High School Musical 3 came out like right before my senior year. So High School Musical was like at an all-time high. So I was the captain of the basketball team for like the last 3 years. Everyone knew this. And when I became the lead in this play, everyone's saying like, oh yeah, so Julian does basketball and he's like, you know, an actor. Oh, cool. But then I had a basketball tournament, and that was on the same day as opening night of the play. And we didn't have any understudies. So I legit had to choose between the play and this basketball game.
So you literally lived High School Musical.
I literally lived High School Musical. The only thing I wish that could have happened was I could have started like a breakout and dance and song. Like I always wanted to do that, like in all seriousness in life. Never got a chance to do that.
You know, I must say I was already intimidated partnering up with you, and now how am I going to compete with this?
It's okay. It's okay. We'll just have to write a play for you, and then
Yes, please.
we'll just write you a play, and then
Then I'll just have to become a star athlete. It'll be really. I'll just do it over real quick.
It was that like literally like I try not to be that person who's like, oh yeah, I played basketball in high school and I could have made it to the league. Like it was a conscious choice not to like make it to the league. I really try not to be that guy like at all. I once told people, because do you watch the NBA by any chance?
I'm not really a sports person.
Okay.
I've been to 2 basketball games in my
Okay.
life.
Two.
So
Just two.
yes, that's more than the amount of football games that I've been
Okay.
to in my life. So.
Okay, then you probably know this guy. Are you familiar with the name? My wife is coming inside, so everyone's gonna have the chance to see her. But are you familiar with the name James Harden?
It sounds very familiar.
Have you seen the basketball player with the giant beard? Giant beard on his face.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
there you go. There you go. There you go. We actually played on the same high school basketball team.
What?
Played on the same high school basketball team. I was fortunate enough to make the varsity basketball team as a freshman while he was a senior. I didn't play much because, of course, when you're on a team with him and a bunch of other superstars, you don't play much as a freshman. But I am proud to say that I was his teammate. And I don't bring it up a lot because, like, I brought it up once on TikTok and everyone's like, he's doing it for clout. He's doing it for clout. When I've already had like 400,000 by that point. Yeah. But so that's just like a little fun fact. Like, me and him actually won a state championship in basketball together.
That is a flex. That is absolutely a flex.
It's a nice little flex, but I like to treat it as a fun fact. I like to let other people say it. Like, I like to let other people be like, oh yeah,
I'll bring it up.
You can bring it up. It's fine.
I'll bring it up. I'll make sure.
I have friends who I'm just happy to like actually like not be one of those people who like nobody believes, because I actually do have friends who like come out of the woodworks to defend, like, no, it's true. Like, it's true. So like, it's just one of those things that luckily I don't have to like remind people, so I don't feel like a douche or anything like that.
Yeah.
But again, like that's why it was like it was crazy that, I was doing like, that's how serious basketball was for me. Like, I was playing like for state championships and things like that. But my senior year, like when I was doing plays and whatnot, that's what made me start to realize that I was like really into like storytelling, just like bringing stories to life. And I ended up choosing the play over the basketball game. And that was like kind of like my first like, oh, I guess like I'm officially transitioning into like actually doing something. I love basketball. It's definitely my love, but like I didn't get nearly as much love out of it as like watching and talking about like film and writing and stories and things of that sort. But even then, I didn't start like pursuing a career in it because I'm a copywriter in advertising until like college. So like I think college is like when I realized it in high school, but college is when I actually started pursuing it and like making YouTube channels and things of that sort. So yeah,
that's so awesome.
Yeah, it's a cool story.
Do you have any genres that you were particularly drawn to?
I honestly don't have like genres that like I'm drawn. Like again, I've watched so many movies. Like if you go down you've seen my TikTok feed. Like it's literally like I remember like when you search your name, because I used to do that a lot, but I only did it so I can see like how many videos were like that I would make.
Yes.
And at the last time I checked,
useful.
It's very useful, right? And so like I think the last time I checked, I was at 1,200. That was maybe like 6 months ago. And so I think I'm well over like 4,000 videos now, and all of them are like different movie reviews. So I've watched a lot of movies, and like it doesn't really matter to me like the genre, as long as like it's entertaining, like as long as it makes me think, as long as it it just kind of like keeps my attention, I'll watch it. Like people say, oh, would you ever watch? I'm like, yes, I would. Like there's like, yes, it's not would I ever, like, yes. Like,
I'll stop you right there. The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. Exactly. What is it? Give me the name. Give me the premise. Like I usually go off of like premises more than like the genre.
Yeah.
So I will say though, I'm not like I get the feeling that you're like a horror movie savant. I don't feel like I'm a horror movie savant like you are.
I love horror. It's funny too, because I never used to like horror. I didn't think that I would. Like I guess I've always just held it. My cousin got me into horror, and she is like a bona fide like horror nut. And so I've always like compared myself to that gauge, and I've always been like, oh yeah, I'm not like the biggest horror fan, but I've realized recently like, no, it's legitimately one of my favorite genres. I think that I don't like the type. I mean, I don't dislike it, but like my thing isn't the kind of horror that I think most people think of when they think, oh, you're a horror fan. They think like, Friday the 13th,
right? Slashers.
Exactly. Like the classics. And I think those are great. And I love like what they establish, but I'm very much like into modern, like satirical, subversive horror.
Cabin in the Woods.
Yes, I love Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
Like literally, when I saw Ready or Not last year, I was talking about this the other day on one of my lives. I think I've seen that movie more than 12 times, and it came out last year.
It's
like
fantastic.
I love it.
It's so good.
And so yeah, I think that horror, it has the capacity to be like really clever and really
Mhm.
smart, and I think that that's one of the reasons why I got really into it, is because
Yeah.
it's one of, I think, the most creative storytelling formats that we have in modern storytelling, because it's just there's so much potential to tell really raw kind of emotional stories when
Right.
when you put somebody in that situation, you know?
Oh, totally, totally. Now, before we go, because like honestly, this was all, I swear, guys, this was only supposed to be like our opening, like
It's supposed
introduction
to
to
be
each other.
podcast zero.
It's supposed to be podcast zero, where we just kind of introduce ourselves and just kind of like say what we hope for the pod. But we fucked around and made like a first episode, which is pretty crazy. We'll still call it episode zero because there was no structure to it. It was just kind of us shooting the shit. So
Just rambling.
you're welcome. This is exactly what you guys can expect us to do. Like every podcast, just like total like geek out, nerd out conversations. But before we go, I want to know, Megan, what has gotten you like into like the geek fandom culture? Like, when did you realize that you weren't like where you weren't like other girls, that you were different, you were a different breed? I want to know.
Oh yeah. Well, that was actually my entire identity for most of my life before I, addressed some of my internalized misogyny. But like when I was definitely, I had a similar origin story to yourself. When I was little, I definitely had some issues with bullying. Maybe had to switch schools at one point, and
Bullies?
then
Oh,
yeah, and then I
wow.
was homeschooled for a little bit, and everybody who's homeschooled is cool, very cool. I don't know if you
Mm.
know this, but they have reputations for being super cool.
You
So
seem all right. You seem all
yeah,
right.
I went directly from being homeschooled into middle school, which was probably the worst transition that anyone could ever have.
Mhm.
And it wasn't so bad because I switched schools a lot, so
Right.
it really explains like how introverted I am now. But my family actually moved to Europe, and so I was always kind of just already different because I
Right.
was always kind of fish out of water situation. Um, and God, I mean, my family lived in Germany for 8 years, and it was amazing. And I like went to boarding school in Switzerland, which usually when people hear, they're like, "Oh, okay, so you come from that kind of family."
Traveled.
but
Traveled.
but it's actually because my dad worked for the government, and like my education was paid for by the American taxpayers. So thank you.
You're
You know,
welcome. I wasn't
yeah.
paying taxes at the time, but you're welcome.
But yeah, so I was always kind of little outcast, and I very much got into stories when I was very young. For me, it was more books than anything else, but I also really loved movies in general. And oh, you're being
My
bequeathed.
my daughter just woke up and she's giving me Chick-fil-A. She's handing my Chick-fil-A breakfast that I didn't finish.
What a kind gift. Um, but yeah, so I really fell in love with storytelling. I would often just obsessively read. And when I got into high school, one of my friends gave me a comic book, and it happened to be The Sandman by Neil Gaiman.
Oh, cool.
Which, yeah, if I still am like, how lucky am I that the very first comic book I ever read was The Sandman by Neil Gaiman? So,
It's a great way to start. So
yeah,
most people be basic.
no
Marvel,
wonder
DC.
no wonder I was hooked after that point. So I fell in love with Neil Gaiman specifically, his writing, and then I started delving into comics. I made a little ragtag group of friends in high school, and we were definitely like, it was a small school, so by the time I was in high school, it's like there wasn't really bullying. Like when you're in a class
Right.
of like 130 people, you're just an asshole if you're a bully.
It's like,
Like,
come on, bro. Like we all
yeah,
grew up together. Like,
everybody's like, yeah, no, you're actually not cool. But yeah, so but my friends and I were still kind of like like we would have been like the girl from Breakfast Club. I can't remember her name. That's like kind of weird.
I don't know why I can never like I can always remember Bender, Claire, because he's like Claire.
Yes, yeah.
Damn, I'm like blanking on all of their names right now, but
Like the weird
yeah,
one.
the
Like
weird
that's
one, the weird
yeah.
one with the
That's
dandruff in her hair.
yeah. And I had like a punk rock phase, and I like cut and dyed my hair dark. But yeah, I definitely thought that I was different, edgy, cool, angsty. And that just, luckily then as I got older, I slowly learned, I still like this stuff, but there's not really anything that's it's
You listen to Paramore?
I didn't listen to Paramore. I listened to a lot of like alt music. Yellow Card was really big with my friends. Like I was
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I have Rock Band. Me and my wife play Yellow Card like all the time. If I can find you now, baby.
I mean, yeah.
So
My
good.
Chemical Romance. Oh my god. Yeah. So it was a fun time, but
I'm sorry if my daughter if you feel like my daughter's like giving you the Apollo like umbrella.
Yeah, no, it's all good. She's got priorities. My son's the same way. She knows what needs to happen.
She knows. All right. Well, I think like with our surprise, she is literally like using the foam in my microphone box. It's like shoes, and she wants me to see. That's cute. But yeah, so I think like now with that being said, you guys got to know us. You guys gotten to get the vibe of our show. Thank you for tuning in to Geeks of the Week podcast. Megan, where can they find you? Like, what are your socials?
Yeah, I am on TikTok and I guess now Instagram as well as Jay Stoops. Geeks of the Week is something we're both really excited about, and we've got a pretty solid lineup. I think for you guys, I think we put some work in. I think most of the episodes are going to have a little bit more structure than this one.
Yes. Well, this was supposed to just be like us, like an introduction.
We get distracted. We get distracted talking about movies. That's the point, though, right?
Yeah, that's the point. And you know what? Like once we have we definitely have structure and episodes and themes coming for you guys. Just enjoy the conversations of the Stoobs in the Straw Hat. But you guys can also find me on TikTok as Straw Hat Goofy and on Instagram as Straw Hat Movies. There's underscores in between all those words on both. I try to put both names on both, but Straw Hat Goofy is actually my personal account. So please don't try and add me on that. Like that's just like people. It's just for me and my boundaries. I gotta have some type of boundaries at this point. But yeah, it's Straw Hat Movies on Instagram and Straw Hat Goofy on TikTok. But I think that just about does her for this impromptu first episode. Thanks for tuning in with us, and we will catch you guys on when the show officially launches on April 15th, this coming Thursday or next Thursday. So super excited. All right, guys, say bye, Megan.
I guess, yeah. Bye. This was awesome.
Bye, guys.